Hey guys, I'm Dimension Jump and today I'll be reviewing Horizon Zero Dawn, which was released back in 2017 for the PlayStation 4 and Microsoft Windows. Now, the main plot of this game is that the main character Aloy is basically trying to find out who her mother is and where she comes from after being attacked by these cult people doing a thing called approving, which is a sort of tests thing in which people can become braves or whatever. And I think braves are like some kind of like elite warriors or something. And yeah, basically Aloy has to traverse this giant open world, finding different people who might know about her past and where she might come from and who might know her real mum. And the plot, I think, is a really, really cool and interesting one because it's basically, it kind of reminds me of how other games use their open worlds in terms of like how they use their plots for instance for Skyrim, even though that game is about dragons, you can basically just do a lot of stuff in that game and throughout the world, and then like in Breath of the Wild, within that game you basically have to feed the divine beast and do other stuff around the world to try and like feed those beasts. And it's the same with Horizon Zero Dawn, because throughout the game you can meet up with different people and you can talk to them, you can get certain quests from them, you can do certain missions, you can go to these dungeon type areas, and you can basically just do a lot of cool and interesting stuff. And what makes this game really cool and really interesting and probably sets itself apart from it makes itself different from like Skyrim and Zelda, is that the whole game is set in like the distant future. So it's like got the apocalyptic vibe, because throughout the game there are moments in which you can find these giant building areas that have been like totally destroyed, and that you can see that some of them are like still half destroyed. You can see that the forest there's basically a forest growing around them, and the only kind of technology that there is in the entire world are these giant machines that look like beasts or animals. So you've got ones that look like alligators or crocodiles, you've got one that looks like deer, one that looks like a lion, a tiger, one that's a giraffe. That's basically this sort of like map scanning area, and it's really cool. And I think each machine that you find has its own personality and its own traits, because if you look at, let's say, the deer ones, they kind of act kind of like how deers or real deers would do. If you come across like a stream, you'll see the machine deer sort of like taking water, and that's really cool because like that gives the game more personality and more enjoyment and much more kind of like just like familiarity and coolness to the world, because you're not just wandering around the world just meeting bystander number 3. You find a person, you talk to them, and then you move on your way, and you basically just you might find a beast, and you might fight it and take its resources. And again, that's really cool and interesting because each enemy has a weakness. So for example, there's some enemies are weak to electricity, weak to fire, ice, and various other stuff, and you can basically create these weapons or bows in the game that all have different types of arrows, and they all do different things. So you've got your regular arrows, and then you've got like fire arrows, shock arrows, arrows that are shock arrows, but they're basically like a tripwire, bows that can trip over enemies. It's basically one of those bows that it's like got a rope, and you connect it to both the ground and the enemy, and then they'll fall over if you use enough of them. And that one is possibly my favourite because it's just so useful, because it has been useful to me throughout my playthrough of the game, and especially in like the dungeons, which I'll get to in a bit. And the main character, Aloy, I think she is a very interesting character because you first meet her when she's a child, and then you see her with her sort of foster dad, sort of like training for the Proving, and you kind of get to see her personality a lot. And I think it's like one of those, like, you know, headstrong, very like tomboyish. I would say tomboyish personality, and I think Aloy is a very interesting character, and I think she's like a really cool and interesting main character because of how cool she is and how she's able to like do all these sort of things, and I think she has like a lot of really cool and interesting interactions with all of the other characters within the game. And now I'm going to show you some gameplay. Now, in the game, you can come across basically different settlements, and basically what these settlements can give you are either quests, side quests, or different things for your journey. So if I wanted to talk to this merchant, let's say, that this merchant will give me a variety of things, so weapons, outfits, resources, potions, that sort of thing that we might want for our journey. So, and if you look at the outfits and weapons sections, you can see that all the different weapons are coloured. So, green is for common, blue is for rare, and purple is for very rare. And basically what each weapon does, I think they have more power to them, I think, depending on which one you get. And also you can modify them. So if you look at the two circles, like here, around here, those if you modify them, you can basically give your bow or whatever a new power or extra power, or a power for that specific kind of ammo that it's holding, and that sort of thing. And to get different weapons, you'll need a certain amount of resources. So let's say if I wanted a Karja warbow, I would need 300 metal shards, 5 desert glasses, and 2 slag shine glass? I think I'm saying that right. But as you can see, I don't have enough desert glass or slag shine glass. But there's something I can get. Let's say a shot bow. No, a sharp bow, not a shot bow. So yeah. I've got that. So let's say I want to get a tripcaster. Yeah, I get that. Then I can replace any of the other items here. So let's say I want to get rid of this one. So now I've got a new tripcaster that I can use. And each one comes with different things, with their own elements and stuff like that. So for the hunter bow, it has its a normal arrow and a fire arrow. For the warbow, it's got a shock arrow. For the rope caster, it's basically got a trip rope thing, and for this one, it's got like a blast wire and a fire wire. And yeah, I think that's all interesting and really cool, because like you can basically just use these things to your advantage. And also, each arrow that you find in the game, depending on which kind of arrow bow, which kind of bow you find, heavily depends on resources that you find in the game. So for instance, a fire arrow will need some wood, a blaze, and some shards. And yeah, and you'll need to find like a bunch of those if you want to get full thing. and also I'm going to show you like how to use them in battle. And also you can fast travel like in other like in a bunch of other games, but in this game you can you can fast travel by a way of a fast travel pack, which are basically these things that you can use once, and then that travel pack will be gone until you buy like more. And I think the travel packs are useful if you want to go from, let's say, where I am in Day Tower Gate, or wherever this place is, Day Tower, to, let's say, over here to Devil's Thirst. So let's say I want to fast travel here, so let's go here, and then you will instantly go there. The I think the only problem that I have with this game is probably the load times, because the load times depend like go either quick or fast, and it kind of reminds me of the travel mechanic in Breath of the Wild, in which if you fast travel from, let's say, the Great Plateau to Hyrule Castle, then the load times will be different. Then you might, let's say, if you travel from Hyrule Castle to let's say Zora's Domain or something like that. But I do think, in terms of how you fast travel in this game with the whole fast travel pack, it is a good use of the world and a good use of how each fast travel thing is used, because you can only fast travel if you've been to a campfire, which is where I am at the moment. If you've completed a tall neck, which are basically these giant giraffe type enemies, or if you've done, like, I think other things like cauldrons and other stuff like that you've done in the game. So yeah, I think that's a really good use of the world and how you use it. So yeah, and also if you press this part of the controller, you'll unlock this thing called a focus. Now the focus you'll get quite early on in the game. I think you get it when Aloy's a child, and the way to use it is that you can scan the specific area and scan whatever kind of guys or enemies are in the area. So for instance, I can see a sawtooth, and I think that's another. Oh, that's a grazer. I think that's like the deer one, and I think that's a watcher. Yeah, watcher. So I think that's a really cool, interesting way to use the focus to see how many enemies there are in a specific area and what kind of weaknesses there are. So for example, let's say for the saber-tooth, the grazer, let's say their weakness is fire, and then that's why I have like fire arrows, and then they've got this one on the tripcaster, that sort of thing. And also you can gather healing materials to basically just to use, and also and also a lot of the stuff that you use can be used as like add-on effects on the enemies. So for example, fire arrows can cause fire, and that will damage the enemies over time. And then let's say if I want to use the ropecaster, let's say, then the enemy can fall over, and depending on which machine enemy you use the ropecaster on, the more of the ropecaster that you will need to use. And also you can, if you look at the bottom left hand corner, which is like where I'm changing all of my item things, that you can use it for like different stuff. So for example, let's say, so for these ones I can set a trap. So let's say I wanted to put a trap there, then let's say I want to put another trap here, and then let's say I want to put another one here, and then I can add even more traps. So I can add a firecaster here, and then let's say for shock one, I can add one here. And now this guy spotted me. I can now use like more of the stuff. So yeah. Oh, now I can override it. So the way, so yeah, the override is like a really cool idea because now this guy is on my side, and now he will fight for me, which I think is a really cool idea. And also, overrides do need a recharge every now and again, and also you can find healing potions as well, and other stuff, and you can use that to help to get more stuff, or to get more health back. But I would highly suggest finding healing stuff around the areas. So if you find healing herbs or stuff like that, you can just use that to heal yourself. But you do have a limited amount of space that you can hold in your in each stuff. So I highly suggest just you upgrade your stuff or craft the stuff. So like, so for example, all of these can be upgraded. So, but again, you will need specific materials for different things. And yeah, and also I like how I do like all the different some of things you can get. So and I do like how each one tells you a different thing and how each thing works. So for example, this stealth one basically gives you more. It's basically a stealth one, so that's why it's called a Silent Hunt Light outfit. Then you've got one that's quite good against the elements. Another one that's good against elements depending on a specific area. But this one is I think it's that's just good. I think against certain stuff. And yeah, and let's say if I want to equip one, let's say I want to try. Let's say I want to try this one. Yeah. Then Aloy will have that on once you've taken out, and I think it's really cool. And yep, and override. Oh no, override. Yeah, I think it's a really cool, interesting way. And I do like for specific ones, like this one, you can call it, and you can just ride on them, which I think is really cool. Because then you can basically attack each one. So that's been it for the gameplay, and now it's time to go back to the review. So as I said before in the review, in the game there are these dungeon areas, and these are called cauldrons. Now cauldrons in the game are basically these areas in which you basically have to get to the center and basically access so that you can override certain machines. Because after you've done the proving, and this is when you are attacked by these cult members, and yes, there are cult members in the game who are human, and you will see throughout parts of the game, you will see, you will find this override control thing from this corrupted machine, and when you first get it, you're able to override like a few creatures, and then the cauldrons that you visit, you're able to override more machine beasts, and then you're able to like have your own sort of small army of machines, and that's a really interesting power to use, because if you get close enough to a machine, you can basically just override it, and then you'll be able to use it to like battle other machines. And there are some that you can use to ride, which is like really useful, because then you can get from one area of the map to the other quite quickly, without fast traveling. And then there are ones that you can't ride, but they can obviously, like a lot of other machines that you can override, will help you fight other machines. And yeah, I think the whole override system is a really nice and interesting way to use, because the way that you have to try and override machines is by sneaking up to one and basically just hitting the override button, and then they will be on your side. And it's really interesting because sneaking is a very useful ability in the game, because the way that you aren't detected by like enemies, or whether it's machines or cult members or whoever, is by going through this like very tall grass, and it's like red. I think it's sort of like red grass, sort of, and then you won't be able to be heard by specific enemies. And if you combine that with one of the outfits you can get in the game, in which you can which is basically a stealth sort of suit thing, then you'll probably be less likely to be heard by enemies. And I think that the whole customization thing in this game is a really nice and interesting way to use different things to your advantage. So, for example, there's the ones that might have you have extra defense, one that might you have extra sneaking, and there might be one that has like extra attack, that sort of thing. And I think that's really cool, because you can just like use different ones to your advantage depending on the situation you're in. So let's say you're in an area that in which you're like there's a lot of enemies, and then you might want to try and sneak your way through. Then you might want to use the stealth sort of suit, or I think it's not really much of a suit. It's more of like a sort of like a. I'm just gonna call it stealth suit, because I felt like that's gonna be a lot more easier for me. But then there might be another one that might have you like extra defense, and let's say you're surrounded by a group of enemies. Then every time they might hit, that you might take like half damage or something, and yeah. And I think the cauldrons are a nice challenge for the game, because you basically have to fight your way through different machines, and then throughout each one you see not only old enemies or old machines, but also new ones. For instance, there's one in one cauldron. There are these ostrich-like enemies that you can find around the area, and they are intimidating, because like they're basically, I think they're like a sonar type enemy, I think, because they basically, or I think they use like sound waves or something, because they unleash these like sound wave attacks, and then if they see you, they will use more of the sound waves. And then there are ones that are watcher type enemies, in which if they spot you, they'll create a noise signaling to the rest of the herd or other machines that you're a threat, sort of. And yeah, I think each machine enemy is so cool, and as I said before, it's so cool and so uniquely designed, and have their own personalities, that they are one of the things that makes the game cool. And yeah, so if I had to give my overall thoughts about this game, I think that Horizon Zero Dawn is a fantastic game. It's one of those nice games that feels new, but using the sort of fantasy sci-fi genre, and basically turns it on its head. Because I do like this. It's basically the whole overworld is basically this sort of fantasy type area. It kind of reminds me of how other games like Skyrim or God of War uses their own worlds to create their own stories, and this definitely feels the same with Horizon. And I do like the whole sci-fi elements to it, like the cauldrons, the machines, and I do like how they are used within the game. And I do like the whole overworld and open world dynamic, because it's just so cool. And I think that this feels different to other open worlds in terms of how they're used. Because if you look at like something like Hyrule and Breath of the Wild, that is very different to the one in Horizon, because that's based on Hyrule and The Legend of Zelda, but this one is basically based on its own thing and that sort of thing. So for this game, I would say it's a good 10 out of 10 in my opinion. I think it's an enjoyable game, and I think there's a lot of enjoyable characters that you can meet. I think Aloy is a very really cool and interesting main character, and I would highly suggest you go out and play this game and just experience it for yourself. So that's been my review for Horizon Zero Dawn. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.